Hi, welcome to Let's Talk. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. This evening we will be continuing our journey with Face to Face with Jesus, Chapter 2. In the 1980s, when I was born, my country was still under the control of the communists. Although Mama and Papa grew up in a communist country, they followed the Muslim culture. A large family was a sign of a great blessing from Allah. Before they married, their families had been friends. They had known one another as they were growing up. My mother's sister had married my father's uncle, and they suggested that Ibrahim and Sarah, whose name meant princess, might be a perfect match. My parents agreed. After all, my father was an intelligent man and was studying for his PhD in philosophy. As their daughter was clever too, they wisely wanted an equal partner for her. Even so, it was a love match. Mama was 20 and Papa 30 when they married in 1960. In the 1960s, Papa felt he had found a treasure since my mother was acclaimed for her beauty and intelligence. Sorry about that. Mama taught English at the school, but gave it up when she married my father. She dedicated her life to him in the hopes of bearing Ibrahim, let me try to pronounce this properly, Ibrahim, many children, just as his name, which meant father of multitudes, declared. I was trying to see if that was visual to you guys. That way if I mess something up, you can put it in the comments that, I can't read, so it's okay. Both my parents considered children a blessing from Allah and therefore wanted as many as possible. They tried to have children for 3 years, but there were no offspring. People began to whisper that they were cursed. After all, it's a curse in the Muslim culture to be barren. After 3 years, my mother gave birth to a boy, and there was a huge celebration. My father named the boy Daniel, which means God is my judge. But the joy of his arrival soon came to a tragic end. Daniel was not well. He died at the age of 3 months after an operation on his stomach. This was devastating for my mother and father. The gossip declared that they were indeed cursed. Mama lost all hope, heartbroken at the loss of her baby. But the next year, the heartache came to an end with the birth of my brother, Suleiman, meaning peace. This was quickly followed by the arrival of 8 more children. My brother Musa, drawn out of the water, deliverer. Sister Mubarak, blessed one. Brother Daoud, beloved. Sisters Makwads, holy sacred. Ayman, faith. Malika, queen. Adilia, righteous, just, and me. From the time I was in the womb, there had been a battle to end my life. Adilia had born only a year before me. My mother carried her and delivered her with ease. I was a different story. Mama's battle. Mama's petite body was in pain, almost constantly. She told me later, as I grew within her, her arms and legs swelled terribly. The government hospital of our city was staffed by trained doctors and medical personnel, but no ultrasound was available. My parents had no idea if I was a girl or a boy, but from the way my mother carried me, friends guessed that I was a girl. Being Muslim, my father hoped I would be a boy. He was already the father of 5 girls and only had 3 surviving boys. In the religion of Islam, daughters were not valued as highly as sons. In spite of her discomfort, my mother carried me to full term. Early one Sunday morning, the contractions began and rapidly increased in intensity. My father fed broth to 1-year-old Adelia, promising her, "We will return with a brand new baby brother or sister for you, whatever Allah wills." She was too young to understand the words, but my siblings knew and all hoped for another baby boy. My 13-year-old brother, Suleiman, remarked, "Mama, please bring home a baby brother. We boys are outnumbered." "I'll do my best," Mama laughed. After my parents hugged them goodbye, Suleiman was left in charge. Papa helped my mother down the stairs from their second-story apartment into the bustling streets. They traveled by taxi to the hospital as the pain of her contractions increased. My father was smiling when they arrived at the hospital. The curse of the Baroness had certainly come to an end. Mama was examined immediately when they arrived at the maternity ward and quickly taken to the delivery room. My father was not permitted to go with her because men were not allowed to be present at a child's birth, so he waited patiently outside the building. The weather was warm and pleasant. After experiencing the routine 9 times before, Papa believed the delivery would happen quickly. He kept his attention fixed on the window, waiting for a nurse to appear and present his newborn child to him. In the delivery room, the communist midwife examined my mother and tried to feel the head of the baby. She seemed concerned, speaking in the official language of the country instead of our native tongue to the other nurse. She said, "We should get rid of it. A tumor, I think, not a baby." She did not realize my mother was fluent in 3 languages and understood every terrifying word. Mama raised her head and commanded in the same language, "Don't you touch my baby." Though the midwife was shocked at Mama's response, she instructed, "Madam, it will be better if we were to abort whatever is inside of you." My mother was not convinced. Since she had already given birth 9 times, she knew without a shadow of a doubt that she had a healthy baby inside of her. So she argued with the midwife, "There's nothing wrong with my baby. I will not permit you to abort my child." "Madam, I've delivered babies every day, and I tell you this is not a baby, but a growth of some sort." Beads of sweat trickled down Mama's face. The pain of the contractions was almost unbearable, but she would not give up or give in to the midwife. She had almost no strength, and my father was not permitted to be with her. This was a battle Mama had to fight on her own. "If it is a baby, it is most certainly turned wrong," the midwife said, "upside down in the wound. It will not survive, and if we do not act soon, you will die." "Get someone else," Mama panted. "Another doctor. You will not kill my baby." The 2 women exchanged exasperated looks, and and left to call a Jewish midwife who was renowned in her country for her skill. They were concerned that they not be blamed if my mother died. My father was, after all, a lawyer and a man of influence in the city. Within moments of the Jewish doctor's arrival in the room and quick examination, the problem was discovered. I was face up in the birth canal instead of the proper position of face down. Worse, I was stuck high in the canal, unable to drop. It was not surprising that Mama's labor was the worst she had ever experienced. The Jewish doctor grasped the danger immediately. If we were going to save the baby and the mother, we must perform a C-section. Mama protested, still certain the staff intended to kill me. She was placed under general anesthesia, and within minutes, I was plucked from her womb at 3 p.m. that day, Sunday afternoon. I immediately began to wail. I was definitely human, and it was too late for anyone to take my life. I believe I was saved by God for a purpose. My survival was due to the skill of a Jewish doctor in a communist hospital, staffed by Muslims. My father was summoned as Mama recovered from the surgery in anesthetic. He was the first to hold me in his arms. Mama recovered. When Mama awakened, her first words were, "Ibrahim, how is my baby? Where is my baby? My miracle child," she murmured. In my culture, when a son is born, there is much celebration in the hospital. Doctors and nurses come to congratulate the mother. Relatives bring gifts, money, and food. That was not the case for me. Only my mother and father rejoiced. They were to be pitied. After all, they had too many girls. Yet in spite of that fact, I was female. My mother and father looked down at me with a tender love. Mama told me later that her eyes misted. Misted with tears as she studied my face and realized how very close they had come to losing me. Mama was 37 years old when I was born. Her recuperation from the traumatic birth meant an 8-day stay in the hospital. My sisters rejoiced when, at last, word arrived that their baby sister was coming home with Mama. My eldest sister, Mubarak, was 9 years old. She was so excited about my arrival that she ran to all the neighbors, dancing and exclaiming, "Mama has a beautiful baby girl. They are coming today." When she found my brothers, Soliman and Musa, they were outside playing soccer. They pretended they did not care. "Just another girl," they murmured. My brothers and sisters soon fell in love with me, however. I was like a little doll to them and to their friends. With such a difficult beginning, perhaps I was treasured all the more. Here's the proof that I was loved. All of the children in my family, my father only insisted on naming 2 of us. Their first son, Daniel, and me, the last daughter. He called me Miriam, which means love. To my mother, I was always her miracle child. And that concludes chapter 2. Come join me. Let's talk on chapter 3 when we continue the next chapter. See you then. Bye.